Welcome back, fellow armchair journalists. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8 and Third Reich events installed. Now, if you notice things are slightly different, it's because at the end of the last episode, the game crashed. That's why we ended the episode. So I had to go back and replay approximately 8 days in game time. And I'm sure I know I'm just made a few different decisions here and there, what to build exactly, or other little minor things, but nothing else is major. But we're still losing a few of these battles here. So we're now in January 1st. Oh yes, so gotta do the New Year stuff. Okay. Let's do the annual national focus. I forget what we did last year. Not going to do it Luftwaffe or Z-Plan. Economics, science. No. Okay, it's going to be for this year. Armaments factories or tank factories? Well, we're at 1,049 there for manpower, which isn't bad, but isn't overly good. Especially since I haven't put the nail in the Soviet coffin yet. And we're gonna go Wehrmacht. Just because of that extra 10% manpower. Build new factories. Oh, we get lots and lots. Or land build speed. I think we're gonna go with factories. We like factories, they'll help us out. Now, I know these are random. Because the AI won't be able to pick them. So, keeps it. But unfortunately, where is that? Oh, no, that's... I was thinking it was down here for some reason. I don't know. It was Siskai. It was a different spelling, but Siskai is a place in South Africa. I knew a few people involved with that back when it was a thing. Okay, I guess they're all in Germany then. Munich, Magdeburg. Got some information on some of the Magdeburg factories for the war. I don't know if I'm going to make an event for this or not, but just could be cool. Okay, so we're going to go with that. A bunch of new factories. Even though it says lose, trust me, you get new ones. We can, let's go to Stuttgart. Well, Nuremberg will be easier to find. Let's go to this view. There's this thingy here. Nuremberg right here. We have 2 armaments factories. It says we're going to lose one, but we're really going to gain one. As you can see, we now have 3 there, so trust me, it happened everywhere else. Just an engine problem. I don't know if they somehow put different order or whatnot in the event might change that, but none that I know of. Okay. Extra spies. I like economic spying. I'm doing more of the rally political intelligence army. No, we don't care about research national unity. Well, that's been a little bit of a hit. Now I know it's only down at 95% in that, but we're gonna go with that. That'll help out, I think. I think that's a good option at this point. It's not like we're collapsing or anything like that. You know, we're not just defending the Reich internally, we're still going out, but still I like to have it. Okay. Only reason to take the long-term one right now is either if you want money, or if we were going to be building more the major projects, things like mining and railroad, but we've maxed out on all of these. Collectivized farms is only for the Soviet Union, I think, or maybe you have to be communist or whatever, but National Socialist Germany will not get that. Does not meet any requirements to get that. So short term, the 10% in ICs, we'll lose some money, but whatever. Money is important. Remember from standard black ice of this period, some of the big things that require purely money, like building the Atlantic Wall, still have that as a component, but it's reduced to a lot more on, and it requires you can't just deficit spend, but a lot more on supplies and some resources. So, which I think is more historical, and that's the game that any of you are playing this version. Okay, and defense. Do we want to do defense? Okay, ICs, manpower, combat movement, speed, officer recruitment. I don't think so at the moment. I don't think it's a big enough thing that we need to do that. So, we've one up here. Well, good. Heavy snow and blizzards reported in Russia. This is making attacks very difficult, but we should defend better. Okay, well, that's good. I've been worried about here. It's not a victory hex, but it is a just one IC here, but still, I'd prefer not to lose it. Hopefully we'll have a chance with that still. Look at, they're hitting us hard. Okay, the 29th Waffen Grenadier SS, or Division der SS. Okay, don't know if I've talked about this much. Now, I don't know if I changed this one. I don't think I did for this playthrough. This division only came about because of the Italian collapse. Mussolini, if he was in power and not just a puppet up in the Italian Social Republic, but in power, he would not have let the SS recruit a division, and it was not a from the Tyrol area, primarily Germans. These were Italians. You look at the posters for it. They made some really cool posters. For recruitment, and it was all geared towards Italians. Now, also on the title, if you notice, this is the 29th Waffen Grenadier Division. Okay, it is not an SS division. It is a Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS, as opposed to let's see if we can bring one up here quickly, or do we have too many other events behind here? Well, a bunch of events back here, okay, but let's see. See where this one says SS Polizei Division, and I don't know exactly where they are. I think we're still moving towards the front here. See, this is the 3rd SS. What's it? Panzer Division Totenkopf. So SS divisions, the SS is in the beginning of the title. This may be a distinction without a difference, but that really isn't the case. A lot of these units, these other units, well, almost all of them, if not all of them, are made up of foreigners. Some, shall we say, in which maybe the Italians fall into it from the SS racial theory thing, aren't equal to or nearly equal to the Germans, like Vinking. Yeah, that's Reich. See, Reich. Vinking should be moving around in here somewhere. Viking, Vinking, Winking. It's made up of a lot of foreigners as well as German. It's a very mixed division, but it's made up of foreigners from Scandinavia, which were as good as, almost as good as, and within the racial theories of the SS as the Germans. Italians, Frenchmen, not so much. They're not subhumans, but they're not the wonderful German people or whatever. And you'll notice this also is out there for a lot of the Eastern European divisions, have similar sort of things. They're of the SS, not SS divisions. So it's sort of mixed in that, and a lot of them now. This has a don't know where this photo was taken. Could be in Italian, could be even that division with the Sturmgewehr there, but I think I'm pretty sure it's not the Italian SS division. All the pictures I've seen of the Italian SS division, they were wearing Italian helmets. I think they were wearing the more Italian style camouflage pattern, not the SS patterns. That's sort of one of the correct divisional symbols, but I guess I would have made a lot different emblem. Their collar patches and such were a red field, not black. You know, with silver on black, they were red and whatnot. So they're very different, sort of distinctive national unit, and also comes down to some degree that, you know, we were talking about the distinction without a difference. There's also the element that I don't really think most of the Italian soldiers that were in this SS division were Nazis or National Socialists. I think they were fascists that were looking to be in a proper military unit, not a internal security unit, but wanting to be in a proper fighting unit, equipped well and to fight the enemies. And with a lot of the people from the Baltic states that were in similar sort of status, they're very likely a bunch of, you know, National Socialist Estonians, Latvians, or Lithuanians in the unit, but as well as fascists, which that often overlaps, and people sometimes didn't make the distinction. There's when we've talked about it, the whole racial theological element to National Socialism that fascism does not have. At sort of the basic economic level, there again may be just distinctions without hardly the difference, but there's more to politics than economics, trust me. If all you think, and this is how a lot of economics is sort of, a lot of politics is put out today, is sort of what economic pattern you want to follow. That ain't the case, because I know very religious progressives, and I know very religious strict constitutionalists, and they're both I don't question either of them religion, and they both think they're doing good, and they both have very devout beliefs, but they're depart on big government, small government, national government versus local government. There's a lot of difference there, but they both, and I'm talking about people within the Republican Party, not like Democrats and Republicans. I'm talking within the Republican Party, so that on things like national defense, they come they come with the same sort of policies, and they're all strong in America, right to life, pro-life type people, anti-abortionists, and so they come together. But internally, there's significant divisions within them, and which a lot of people from the left don't see those divisions within the American Republican Party. Basically, Ted Cruz versus Mike Huckabee. Huckabee is a big government progressive. Ted Cruz is a small government constitutionalist. Both are extremely anti-abortion. I mean, that's where they agree. Other things they very much disagree on. So this is sort of how I still, and I'm trying to educate through this series, is that there is a big difference between fascism and National Socialism. And so I don't know the right-wing peoples in here, whether they mostly got on the fascist train or mostly on the National Socialist train of thoughts. But also, probably not too many radical leftists, but a lot of different patriotic, whether you go as far as nationalist, but patriotic peoples of these ethnic groups that maybe were to some degree anti-fascist, but if it's a choice between fascism that might allow you to have some level of national independence or centralized communism, they're going with the fascist, sort of, best of a bad situation, or the least bad choices. So that's sort of the distinction. If these people that were involved in SS division, it depends on who, where, and when, and which divisions. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all good people, and doesn't mean that there weren't a lot of, and we talked about in the Baltic states, some of the very nasty anti-Jewish stuff that went on. I mean, murder groups and squads, and a lot of those people, as the collapse was coming, that were sort of the internal security types, were pushed into the various SS divisions to make up the combat losses. So yes, we'll take the division, even though a little unhistorical. Here's Group A. E Commando, which just means, not like English commando, just means command. Army Group E was created on January 1st, 12th Army. From the 12th Army, units, Eastern Mediterranean, under command of Luftwaffe General Loh. Okay, didn't really know that. Cool. Vomag. These are the guys that made the cool half-tracks, particularly the armored ones. There were several other people that were making the... Oh, and they, at least, other people may have made them too, but they're the sort of the designers of the armored ones. Okay. Initially had 6 buildings for tank production. 1940 expanded again construction. The huge Panzerhalle, which was finally completed in 1943. Volmag initially produced half-track and the Panzer IV Ausf, and the G. Volmag became one of the largest tank manufacturers in the Third Reich. In October of 43, Volmag produced prototype of the Jagdpanzer IV in competition with Alket. Won the contract for its production. Volmag was solely responsible for the standard Jagdpanzer IV, although Alket, yes, I knew this part at least, Alket later produced a hybrid version in smaller numbers and eventually produced at least 16, and eventually produced at least 16 examples of all models. Yeah, I was working with Thegan on the Vowert's Panzers mod for RPM2. If you don't like Black Ice, you might want to give RPM2 a try. I didn't really so much work or help with RPM2. It was more with Vowert's Panzers. And that there are sort of 2 types of Jagdpanzer IVs. Both mount the same gun. One is sort of the standard. If you see it, it's a super low profile tank, and the hull, both sort of upper hull and where the turret would be is all sort of one form and shape. The Alket version is a taller version, and it's just sort of like a box stuck on top of a Panzer for it's sort of a quicker and dirtier, cheaper style. I think it gave more room to the crew, but was both a little taller, so bigger target, and it didn't have nearly as good of angled armor. So I think they're both roughly, I'd have to look it up, but excuse me, both roughly the same denseness of armor, but overall the standard Vomag version has better angled armor, so for its denseness it does a lot better. Hope I haven't totally bored you on details of tanks. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of tanks, been studying them for many years, and now that we're looking at Hearts of Iron 4, where you build them in individual tanks and not just you know, SS armor, like I was saying, Vorwärts Panzers, which the you non-German speakers, that means forward Panzers. Sagan did a very good attempt to model the different tank types in Hearts of Iron 3 format. The best. It is, to me, it is what is best about RPM2, and in my opinion, does it better than Black Ice, but as a total package, Black Ice is better. So, you know, Black Ice ain't perfect, but I love it. Yeah, you know, so you know, we don't all have exactly the same vision, but so I like that, and so, but we're looking towards Hearts of Iron 4. I'm looking towards to, if nobody else is going to make one that I want to, the way I want it, I'll build it, but I'm really hoping to find whether Thegan comes back to being active once it's out, or find another team of people to put together a really good tank mod for it that is close enough to vanilla in values of, you know, gameplay values, if you will, but just modeling the different tanks more historically than Hearts of Iron 4 does, and more precisely, so that it can be dropped in or used potentially with multiple mods. You know, if somebody else makes a great aircraft mod, or if 3 people make different great aircraft mods, you could just use this one tank mod with whichever aircraft mod or whatever sort of component, instead of necessarily this comprehensive style that Black Ice does. Whether it ever, something like this ever gets incorporated into Black Ice, I don't know. They may go this path, and I would happily work with them on all the different tank models. So let's see, we can build tank factory and aircraft gun there. Metal, okay, we got plenty of metal, that's for sure. Supplies, yeah, plenty right now. We are more than enough supplies. Moment, I've gone back to just making basically requirements, because we're maxed out at supplies, because I know I had been overbuilding because, you know, supplies were lost temporarily in the system. And two manpower, yeah, we can afford that, so yeah, why not? We wanted the tank factory. Okay, Atlantic Wall Calais section. That's obviously here. Okay, I'm still going on the premise that the scripted invasions will work right, and that defenses will help the defender and not the attacker by it. So now, obviously we have all levels here. I'm a believer in fortifications. You know, we talked about this way back when. I think largely the Maginot Line worked. So, watching some documentaries about the period, including the classic World at War again. I mean, I saw that when I was very young, back in the 70s. That's the 1970s, not the 1870s. And that the Maginot Line psychologically put France on the defensive, and very against Napoleon's tactics, and Napoleon's thought that if you hide behind your walls, you're automatically you're losing. So that, yeah, psychologically it wasn't so good maybe for the French as well. But what it did do is it forced the Germans around it. Now, obviously, I have studied, medieval castles, and the high point was the Welsh castles before the Black Powder era, and they're designed and set up to prolong a siege by as few as defenders possible against the largest numbers of attackers, and in their style it sort of works. In Japan, which I've also studied the castles there, in their again pre-gunpowder era, but that lasted artificially a lot longer. Their castles weren't really set up to defend against sieges so much, or at least not in my understanding in the European sense. They, I don't know, the Japanese never really built, at least seemed to build that I've ever seen, really good siege engines. Things that throw big rocks, towers that roll up to the castle. And I think that's partially the mindset of both the Japanese warriors at the time, as well as the Japanese castle builders at the time. The Japanese castle builders intentionally built in weaknesses into the castle. I think we may have talked a little bit about this way back when. But because what they wanted to do is they wanted the defenders of the castle to know where the attack was going to happen, because it was the only reasonable place to do so, and it was a place that you could theoretically win at attacking, but that would limit the scope of the attackers, coming up a fairly narrow walkway or whatever. I mean, not that there wasn't gates to close, but the gates weren't super huge or super big or impenetrable in that way. They were, you'd have to bash your way through them to a degree. I'm not saying there wasn't that element to it, but they wanted to, shall we say, shape the battlefield in such that a few samurais and other warriors could face only a few of the enemy at a time, even if the enemy massively outnumbered them. Give them a narrow area in which they could shoot arrows down into them, and things like that, to have a battle on a limited front instead of having a battle out in the open somewhere. But they actively wanted to get out there with their swords and do the samurai sort of thing. Well, that's the way I look at these fortifications in a modern black powder or post-black powder sense. And I do mean that post-black powder in the high explosive sense, with air power and everything else. Defenses are meant not to stop the enemy. They're meant to slow the enemy down, to attrit the enemy as they come across, meaning machine guns and pillboxes manned by just a few men are going to kill more men than it takes to defend them. Even if all the pillboxes are killed with their people in them, they're still going to kill much more the enemy. So you're going to be costly to take them, take slower to get across them, and if you build them well around various land formations and other things like that, you can shape the battlefield, and you can develop where you're going to defend. Now, that was partially an emotional sense. Partially the sort of the Meuse line here in Liège, with the somewhere in here, I don't know exactly, the Eben Amal, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, as well as other fortifications that the Belgians built, that the French as well as the English thought that they needed to move in and defend along, and not be stuck because they also had massive forts here in Sedan. Well, some forts in Sedan, maybe massive is overstating it. And so they moved in against that, and they thought that you couldn't move a modern mechanized force effectively through the Ardennes. So they came in and advanced into Belgium, which the Germans basically wanted them to because they wanted to cut them off. Now, had the French and the British been thinking that, okay, great, we have this Maginot Line, it's going to maybe stop the Germans cold, but if not, we can, if you had a responsible French high command, and a responsive French high command, you can see where the attack is being made. Is it coming through here, or is it coming through here as the main effort? And strategically, or even just locally within a province region, you can see where the attack is developing and move forces in one way or another, depending on the terrain, situation, the enemy, to confront it, whether to let them in the ways and then try to cut them off, or whether let them in and then there's a natural valley somewhere in here that would be a great kill zone, and that, or whether you just throw them in to stop them cold. However you decide to fight along the Maginot Line, you do it that way, as well as, oh, well, hey, here's a big possible corridor that they may come around, so let's, move the great bulk of our mechanized, motorized cavalry divisions, elite French infantry divisions, or whatever, made up of, mostly full-time soldiers and not reservists. These guys that are motivated to be responsive to a German attack through Belgium, and we're going to destroy that German attack, and then we're going on the offensive against the Germans, kind of thing. Had they been thinking in that mindset, the Maginot Line would have worked. It did, I do say it did work in the sense that it forced the Germans to plan to go around it. And so that's what I look at coastal fortifications like this. And in a sense, they worked in World War II. Where were the invasion beaches? Here in Cannes, as there's no significant harbor here, and Le Havre, I think, is a very small harbor. What is, this is a 3 thing. I don't even know if it's that big, but it can't take fairly big ships that move in here. Some of these ports are much bigger, and these other places. So even if you do take here, as we've seen in World War II, one of the biggest constraints was the U.S. ability to supply its advance, not the ability of the U.S. to fight, to advance. So that was the big constraint there. The Germans did not understand or know or probably think possible the level of floating harbors and the ability to build rapidly artificial harbors literally in days to a scale that would turn what had been beach, and not just because the Germans understood that the U.S., because they'd seen them in, all throughout this region, had seen the U.S. show up with various landing craft onto the beach, and then haul supplies, whether on onto the beach, onto the truck, load them onto some trucks and go. That's good for a few divisions, but that doesn't keep you moving. So they obviously understood that, and since they did build defenses here in Normandy along this coast here, they understood that you could do that, but you can't sustain an ongoing campaign. So they knew you needed some place like Cherbourg, or they thought, or some of these other harbors and Dieppe, because if you remember the Dieppe raids, which was very small, and it's a very small harbor, and just Dieppe alone, you know, I don't know exactly the supply limits and needs, but you get too big of a stack, you're going to see what will happen in Russia here, trying to supply through it. So, along with this is why the Americans landed here, is because they knew that places like Cannes, places here, they had heavier defenses, because you know, Cherbourg held out for quite a while there as sort of a pocket. You know, so they had heavier defenses and also more troops defending it. So you can look at the defenses. So they did shape the battlefield at the time. They didn't really delay the American landing. They want the defenses here, but they did obviously make it costly, the defenses, versus, you know, the initial beaches. I presume you've seen Longest Stay and you've seen Saving Private Ryan. And not all the beaches were equal in the amount of carnage that they had, but the defenses did do that. And so this is sort of what we're looking at with these, is to shape the battlefield. If it works right, it'll make the enemy much more costly to take it. It will give units like these a lot better fighting time, a lot more delay for the enemy attacking, and allow us to move responding troops responding to the fight, to the battlefield, and keep it contained. So I'm very much, as you can tell, a proponent now. Also, I'm a huge proponent of maneuver warfare. May sound that I'm a proponent of the two conflicting styles of warfare, and you know, it is to a point, but I don't think that they're entire. You know, it's how you look at, how you have to look at it. If you look at fortifications are there to shape the battlefield and not to hide behind. If these big guns here, if they're meant to point at England and say, "Don't come ashore, we're all super defended," you're going about the wrong. You're already defeated, because as well as other things we've talked about, I think here earlier, is I'm a big proponent of Alfred Thayer Mahan's naval theories in dealing with strategic maneuver around it. And the Navy gives you huge flexibility moving, you know, on the water instead of the land. So if you're building fortifications and go, that's England across the way, we're not going there, we're hiding here, you're doing what the French did. But if you're looking at, hey, I've got these light defenders here, and I've got concrete, I've got steel, I've got some resources, supplies. As you can see here, we're losing supplies, and a lot of them, but that kind of thing. We've got all this stuff, so we can afford that and keep our manpower usage down. So, and because, quite honestly, is once we're done with this morass here, I'm planning on shifting a huge amount of forces and we're going after England. So we're not going to hide behind it. It's going to be a delay. I don't know whether we're going to invade Britain in 40, probably not in 43, because I mean, maybe we can get done that fast and get shifted over here. That we might do. I'm not going to artificially just sit around and wait, but I'm not going to do it in this, you know, in winter of the next winter if we don't get this done fast enough. So it'd be a spring offensive.
And I don't know if I want to be caught flat-footed. I might just wait till after D-Day and we slaughter the invading forces. So, but we'll do this now. We're going to go medium because we're not hiding behind anything. We're not doing the light forces like we did up here and other places because we didn't think that they were going to really invade, and not just playing sort of a historical game, but in a real sense don't think they're going to invade, but they might do. And I have seen, especially like I said, light invasions into this area a few times. I mean non-scripted invasions that was able to contain, but were serious fights. But so we're going with medium defenses. Okay, as you see, just all the way out through to Dieppe. So now we are fairly well dug in. And we've got coastal forts, so that's great. Okay, I think we're going to end this episode here. Sorry, it's only January 2nd. Been talking a lot. Well, yeah, 2 days. 2 days for an episode. Hopefully it was interesting. Please stick with the series. I hope to get more days accomplished in the next episode. But thanks so much. Thanks for watching. Please post your comments. Love talking with you.